you need?
Can somebody view this?
I am.
She's.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Jen Licata. Welcome to Canine Partners for Patriots' first ever virtual open house. Thanks so much for sticking in there with us this morning, guys. We had a few technical difficulties, but we got up and running, and we're so excited to be here today. I am here with my Colonel Retired, Dave Apt. He is our Board of Directors Chairman. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here with us.
Thanks, Jen. And thank you all for participating in today's virtual tour of Canine Partners for Patriots. We truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about what we do and our mission. And our mission is clearly to give veterans and rescue dogs a second chance at life, while also combating veteran suicide. Today, you'll also go on a virtual tour of the facility and learn about everything we do here in support of the veterans and the mission. Now, that will include a history from the time we were founded. You'll get to meet the founder, and wait till you meet her. You'll also learn about the training that the veterans and the dogs go through as we train the veteran to train their dog. You'll also learn about the dog acquisition process. And that may sound simple, it's quite complicated when you get down to it. You'll see the counseling that we have set up for our veterans. You'll also learn about our volunteer program. And lastly, you'll learn how you can become involved in Canine Partners for Patriots going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Colonel Dave, again for being here with us. We want to thank all of you for joining us today as well. I did want to go over a couple housekeeping things as we get started. First things first, like I mentioned before, this is a live event. There's a lot of different technical components that are incorporated into it. So if we do have any technical difficulties throughout, please be patient with us and trust that we'll get things back up and running as soon as possible. Additionally, if you have any questions that might pop into your head throughout the program, the last section that we're going to do is actually a live component with our founder and executive director of training operations, Mary Peter, our CEO, Ron Flaybill, and then our veteran counselor, licensed clinical social worker, Denny Brown. So if you have any questions, save them to the last portion of the program, and you can actually type those in the chat at that time. Also, we had made a Facebook video about this yesterday, but we did want to also announce that if you did register for our event, thanks to our friends up at Chick-fil-A on 50 in Brooksville, if you registered, you will be receiving a gift certificate for a free chicken sandwich as well. So those will be going out in the mail here very shortly. And also, just making sure we don't forget anything, the event will be able to be viewed at a later time if you're not able to join us live. And last but not least, we could not have been able to do this all without extending a huge thank you to our event sponsor, Chambers Law Firm here in Spring Hill, Florida. We are so appreciative of y'all's generosity and being able to believe in us and the mission that we are doing to help save veterans. So all things considered, we're going to go ahead and get started. So our first segment of the program is going to be our history and mission by our founder and executive director of training operations, Mary Peter. Hello everyone, my name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots. I'm here today with Mary Peter, our founder and executive director of training operations. Mary has been training dogs professionally since 1987 and has earned the respect of the public, law enforcement, and veterinarian community. She's a certified master dog trainer, a graduate of National Canine in Columbus, Ohio, with credentials in the fields of disability training, basic and advanced obedience, retrieval, personal protection, and police canine. She now serves as our executive director of training operations and oversees all the training that takes place here, along with developing our curriculum. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm just happy to be here.
So I have to ask, what was your inspiration for founding Canine Partners for Patriots?
Truly, it came as quite a surprise that something like this was necessary, but I did have a dog training business, Stillwater Dog Training, here in our county, and did obedience training and behavior training for the public, and was going for about 27 years at that time. And about 8 years ago, I started having veterans coming, signing up for classes with a dog because someone told them that a dog would make a difference in their life to help them with their post-traumatic stress. I was not familiar with that at the time, and I saw the struggles that they had, and most of the veterans that I had that started showing up more and more were not able to come to classes on a regular basis. They couldn't be in that crowd with civilians. They were very hypervigilant. Every noise would set them off. They weren't comfortable around people they didn't know, and it was hard to work with them. So I sat down and talked with them and asked them what was going on, explained to me what the issues were. I found that they all had post-traumatic stress disorder. Some had traumatic brain injury, others with military sexual trauma, and they desperately needed help. I knew that a service dog could make a difference. I'd been training dogs for a long time, and I've seen the miracles that the dogs could do, could help with, and I decided at that point that they were not going to get help in the current situation and the current training that I had. They needed something exclusively for them, for veterans only. So I closed my for-profit business and I founded Canine Partners.
Wow, what an amazing story of just seeing a need and stepping up to the plate. What is your vision for Canine moving forward, both physically and elsewise?
I have a lot of visions. Physically, I would say that the biggest thing is the need to have our own facility. We need our own building, one where we're not paying rent or mortgage, because for every monthly rent or mortgage payment that would be paid, that would be another veteran that we could put through this program. At this point, it's about $8,000 to put a veteran and a canine through this program. So we would like to have our own facility, and we'd like to have it on some property. And the vision is to have a place where veterans can come, have a dog park on that property so they can safely let their dogs out to run, to have covered pavilions where we can embrace our veterans in our program and their children and their entire families to come for social events, to have cookouts, and keep the veterans and the dogs trained in a large social environment. And it's just important for them to have that support. We also want to become the nation's most trusted service dog provider, to creating a better quality of life for our veterans with PTSD, TBI, and MST, and also for the homeless dogs that we rescue, to partner with them. It's a save too, and it's so important. We also want to be a pioneer in the elimination of veteran suicide.
Wow, so many, like you said, so many visions and so many ways that we can really grow as an organization, but
yes,
absolutely needed, that's for sure. What is the biggest struggle that the Canine faces as an organization?
I think as as well as any other nonprofit, the biggest thing is funding, is asking for money. We need help to keep this going. We don't want any veteran to ever come through these doors and have to be told that we can't help you because we have no money to do it. It costs money to get the dogs and get training equipment, teach classes, have trainers, as with any organization. So funding, we are not financially supported by the VA in any way. We apply for grants, and we don't know from year to year whether those grants are going to continue on. So to have the community support, business sponsors, those type of things, to help bring in funding so that we can continue to help our veterans would be a blessing.
Absolutely. Well, Mary, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for stepping up where you saw a need. Thank you for your vision and your mission. And we really appreciate you joining us today.
I love it.
There you go.
Awesome. What an amazing story of seeing a need and really stepping up and helping those who are in need. Mary, I know I speak on behalf of everyone in the extended canine family. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your mission and for creating the program what it is today. You've helped so many veterans throughout the years, and I know, as I said, I speak on behalf of everyone, but thank you for what you do. All right, moving on. So the next part, obviously with COVID-19 and everything that's been going on, we haven't been able to have tours recently, and we haven't been able to allow visitors into the facility just to ensure the general health of everyone. So we decided within the virtual open house, what a perfect opportunity for everyone to be able to see just what the training facility looks like. I'm actually going to hand it over to Kelly Flaville. She's our office manager here, and she's going to go ahead and give us a tour of the facility.
Hi, my name is Kelly Flaville, and I'm the office manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots. As most of you know, we are currently operating in a time of COVID-19. I want to give you a tour of our facility and show you how we are helping to keep our veterans, staff, and volunteers safe at this time. So I want you to notice we do have a table here, and we are offering that if someone does not have a mask, they can absolutely get one from here. We have gloves. We also have hand sanitizer. We do ask that while they are transitioning from the front of the office to the training facility portion, that they use a mask, as our area up here is a little more condensed. We have about 1,000 square feet. Typically, there is me and another volunteer here to help with answering the phones and any other issues that may happen. We also are doing a lot of cleaning, going behind and making sure that everything is sanitized properly. So let's go ahead and we'll look into our training area. We have 10,000 square feet in this back area, which helps a great deal with social distancing. So when we have veterans who need to observe class in order to make their commitment, what we're doing right now is allowing 2 to come in at a time to observe a class. We have an area over here for them to sit, and that allows them to keep more than 6 feet away from each other. Over in this area, you can see that we have our chairs set up for our veterans who are attending class. So each seat is more than 6 feet apart, and the dogs can stay separate as well. Over in this area, we have our training staff. So these are their offices over here. It allows them an area to get together and discuss new training tools, new ideas on how to help our veterans be more successful with their canine teams. And then we have our scenario rooms over here. So our first scenario is a restaurant type scenario. With classes going on, we do move the tables around to allow for social distancing. Our classes are only 10 veterans at a time, so that helps keep the social distance easier. Here they'll practice making sure that they know where a dog would go in a restaurant, and also how to answer any questions that a restaurant employee may have as far as ADA law and their service dog. In our next scenario room, we have a doctor's office. We will actually set this up to allow for a veteran to get onto our table, and it allows them to see where they should place their dog so they can be examined by a doctor. This also acts as our canine massage area. And then we have our shopping center. So if you notice, we have some buggies back here, and we will actually have veterans come in, do some shopping. Sometimes we set up obstacles out on the training room floor and just go through what a shopping experience may be like for them. We'll have someone as a cashier who will ask questions and encourage them to use those tools that we are providing regarding ADA law. A lot of people see a puppy and they just want to pet it and love on it, but service dogs are working dogs, and we want our veterans to be strong and understand their rights when it comes to being able to say no, and when it's okay and when it's not okay for them. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we have had to suspend visits to the training facility. Once the situation stabilizes, we will resume visits, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We are so fortunate here to have an amazing state-of-the-art facility that does allow us the space to be able to continue a lot of our training while still keeping social distancing in mind and ensuring the general health of everyone that comes in our doors. Moving forward, as many of you all know, June is PTSD Awareness Month, and today, June 27th, is actually PTSD Awareness Day. We have two very important members of our team here to actually talk about PTSD. The following segment is actually about 30 minutes long, but we're going to give you guys about the first 5 minutes just to kind of understand the recap and overview. If you would like to watch the full 30-minute segment, the link is going to be in the video below. Hi everyone, my name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots. We are so glad to have you guys here today and joining with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the mental health aspect of our program. It is a huge part of our program, and I thought who better to have than two professionals who know all about the mental health aspect, PTSD, TPI, and FT, and to be able to speak on that. So I want to introduce a couple people to you all. First, I have Dr. James Whitworth. He's an associate professor at the University of Central Florida. He's taught graduate clinical social worker courses for 10 years. Dr. Whitworth has also provided private practice counseling for military members, veterans, and their families with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. Lieutenant Colonel retired Whitworth served as a clinical social worker and a mental health officer in the U.S. Air Force for 21 years. He's a former Chief of Air Force Family Research at the Pentagon and also worked 3 years as the Chief of Air Force Family Advocacy Operations and Research. Dr. Whitworth has presented and published research on trauma response, recovery, resilience, PTSD, assessment and treatments, alternative treatments for PTSD, family violence, and building community capacity with military populations. I introduce to you Dr. Whitworth. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you guys. My pleasure.
So if you could just share a little bit about your role with K9 and how you are part of our team here and what you kind of do to work with our veterans.
You betcha, Jen. My primary role right now is to provide program evaluation projects and somewhat research for Canine Partners for Patriots. And so what that means is as I'm working with the team there to try to better understand the benefits and outcomes, what happens when veterans participate in the program, to try to measure those and gather that. The other role I have, and I've been doing this for several years with several colleagues, some from St. Leo University, another from here at University of Central Florida, is to actually do some different research projects into what might be happening there as well too, which involves a little bit more controlled aspects of research. But love the agency, and I probably the most important things about me is that, number one, I'm a veteran, like a number of folks, and I care about them. I also love dogs as well too, so that's what drives me to be part of this program.
Well, we are very honored to have you as part of our extended program and part of our family here at K9. Another person I would like to introduce to you all is Denny Brown. He is a licensed clinical social worker, and if you've been around K9 for any sort of time, I'm sure you have seen him. He's been with K9 for about 4 years now. He has a bachelor's and a master's degree in clinical social work from St. Leo University, and he's currently a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Florida. In addition to working with K9 Partners for Patriots, he also operates a private mental health practice here in Newport Richey, Florida. Some of the services that he provides for K9 include individual counseling as needed, social and emotional support, case management services, veterans, spouses, group support, and regular follow-up and communication. Denny Brown, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you share a little bit more about your role here with K9 and just how important and crucial you are to our team?
Thank you, Jen. Well, as you mentioned, I do individual counseling on a case-by-case basis. Groups are very important as well. We do the spouse group. We have a co-ed veteran group. We have a female veteran group. And those been running for about 3.5 years. And thankfully, they are a lot of interest in those groups, and they've been going well. Also, we conduct the research for Jim so he can get that information. When the veterans first start, we kind of give them a pre-test, kind of assess where they are at that time. And then we give them another evaluation when they graduate, and to see how the program is affecting them, whether, if this is a benefit for their lives and that kind of stuff. But as Jen mentioned, I've been with the program about 4 years, and it's been a great experience, and it's wonderful to see what the dogs can do to help these men and women. But that's basically my role here.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned, Denny, we are so honored to have you as part of our team. You do play a crucial role in our program, so we are very thankful for you. Now to kind of get into the topic. Dr. Whitworth and Denny, thank you so much for your knowledge and assistance and for all you provide for our program veterans. We would not be able to do nearly what we do if it wasn't for you all, so thank you for bringing your expertise to our organization. The next part of our program is about the Canine Service Dog Training, and I am here with Mary Peter, who is a certified master dog trainer, and she's actually our founder and director of training operations. You met her virtually just a little bit ago about when we were going over the mission and history. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Absolutely. So I want to have you tell our viewers and our audience a little bit more about how the program is structured, and because you developed the curriculum, as I understand,
Yes.
what did you keep in mind and what matters were of importance really when you did create the program?
Well, every veteran that comes either has post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, or military sexual trauma, and with each of those diagnoses comes different issues and different medical problems, and the dogs would be trained for those. For instance, there is mobility issues with traumatic brain injury, so we do help a veteran with mobility as long as they have the diagnosis, one of those 3 diagnoses that is the cause of the disability. But the program is very structured. It's a 6-month program, and the first 3 weeks are what we call an orientation phase. And that's where once we've matched a veteran with their dog, or they've had their own dog that we've tested and put into the program with them, they come for 3 weeks to get comfortable here. Because as we know with PTSD, it's hard to be comfortable in a new place or any place sometimes. So we want the veteran to feel comfortable being here, being recognized as part of our family, getting to meet the other veterans, watch training as it's going on, so that when they are actually put into a training class, they know what to expect. Makes their level much more comfortable, and it's good for the dog, for the socialization for the dog as well. So that's the first 3 weeks. Then we go into a basic class, which lasts 8 weeks. And in that 8-week class, we teach the veteran how to completely obedience train their dog. So that when they're out in public, they know how to handle any situation that comes up, that the dogs are well behaved, that they listen to commands, and the veteran feels very confident. That helps them when they go out, having that confidence to know, I've trained my dog through our instruction, and I know how to handle this. They do very well, and those are the basic commands: teaching the dog to walk on the leash, loose leash, and not pull, to automatically sit when they stop, or stand if they need it for mobility, sit and stay, down and stay, come and sit in front, stand to help for balance. That's the basic level that we start with. And then the week 9 is a canine CPR class, and all of them will be get certified in canine CPR, because it's very different than it is for a human. The next level, when they finish that, week 9, we go into what we call the graduate level, and that's a 12-week program. And this is where we get into the service side of training. The dogs are trained tasks to mitigate their disabilities, their stronger obedience commands. They learn life skills, how to handle the public, because it's crucial, it's critical out there, especially with PTSD and not looking like you have a disability. So our veterans do find it very challenging with the public. So we incorporate a lot of different things, including our scenario areas and why we do that. That helps them go further to be able to get out in public.
Will you share a little bit more about the scenario trainings? Because I know we touched on it when we did the tour, but we have a couple different scenario training models here at the facility.
Yes.
Share a little bit about that and why we incorporate that into the curriculum.
Well, it's one thing to teach somebody, to tell someone, okay, we're teaching you all these commands, now go out and do it. But the comfort level is not going to be there. So we want to give them that experience before they actually go out. So the first thing we started with, and I believe Kelly showed this just a little bit earlier, the first thing we start with is our little pet store. We have shopping carts and we have small aisles, so that it mimics what they're going to experience out there. We have people asking them questions, people grabbing another cart beside them, and teaching them how to go get a cart and maneuver it, how to walk with it with your dog, and then walk through here. And we play store. You know, we have customers, we have people sweeping floors. We mimic everything that they're going to learn when they go out there. That's the first one we start with, because that's the most fun for them and that's the easiest. The next level is the doctor's office, and that can be a tough one, because most of the doctors, or many doctors, still don't want dogs in their exam rooms. So the first thing we teach the veteran is to be able to explain to the doctor, this is my service dog. They're taught a place command, and they have a mat that the dog they take with them, and that mat is on the floor. And so we teach them, the first thing you're going to tell the doctor is, this is my service dog. He will stay in his place. The only time he will get up is if my adrenaline starts to rise, if there's pain, if there's a flashback, if anything like that happens, the dog is going to come redirect the focus of that veteran. And so that the doctor won't think that it's just another dog that's not listening to a command. So that's the hard thing, is to getting the veterans to speak up. So we work those scenarios, we ask them questions. We also have them sit on the table, and we have the white coat on. We go around behind the doctor, the veteran, just like the doctor would. We touch, we ask them to say ouch. We want to make sure the dog maintains its command. There's no overprotection there, but that the dog is waiting to see if he needs to come. The last area, which is also a fun area at times, is our cafe. We have 4 different tables. We have one high top table so that I can teach them why not to get a high top table. because it's very hard to have your dog work for you when the dog is down lower. But we have other tables, and we teach them the restaurant time. We will be taking them to restaurants in in their training, and we will be eating out together. But right now we're getting them prepared for that. What questions they'll be asked, where their dogs are placed, again with their mat that we give them, and the dogs are placed under a table, not seen, not heard. The whole idea of the scenarios is to give them a taste of what reality is going to be once they go out, and it makes them a little more comfortable and have a more successful time out.
Really, the better we can prepare them in here under our roof, the more successful they're going to be when they're out in the community. That's what an amazing curriculum, and just it is so detailed and encompasses so many different parts. I know another huge part of our program is actually canine massage therapy, and I believe we have Rayleigh Covington here, who is actually our canine massage therapist, and she's going to talk a little bit more about what all that entails as well.
So with massage, we like to keep our service dogs fit for their job, and they're working 24 hours a day sometimes, and muscles hold tension, but also some of the dogs may have underlying conditions that, although it doesn't affect their ability to work, it's just something that needs to be addressed to make sure that it doesn't affect their work. So for example, we've discovered with this little girl, she has a fused vertebrae close to where her tail is. So although it doesn't affect her ability to work, we want to make sure that it doesn't hinder her ability to work. So what we're doing is just making sure all the muscles supporting the area are kept supple and don't cause any discomfort. Quite often, if a dog has injured itself, there might be a strain, which then becomes difficult for it to perform a task because that strain aggravates it. For example, they might have done something in their back, and then when you tell the dog to sit, the muscles are then sore, which means the dog isn't going to want to sit. So when is a training issue actually not a training issue, it's actually a muscular issue. So I keep an eye on all the dogs, watch them when they're walking, and if there's anything that needs addressing, anything that needs loosening up and tightening them up, loosening up and preventing the area from becoming tight, it just makes sure the dog is able to do the job to the best of its ability and not be hindered by just these little niggles and knots the same way as humans get, like the knots that you get in your shoulders, the knots that you get in your lower back. Dogs suffer with all of this, and if they're getting in the way of training, then the dog is not going to be able to perform as well as it should be. So this is a way of keeping them in good muscular shape so that we can ensure that the veteran is getting the best out of his dog and the dog is able to perform its job without being in any discomfort. She has her own ideas about which side should be worked on. So she gets this on a regular basis. So we work with her every week. And because her issue is back here, what we do need to make sure is that the front end is nice and loosened up and not stiffening up because she's compensating. So we want to make sure there's no areas of overcompensation. So we just address those areas at the same time. So whenever you're doing massage, quite often somebody will say, well, this bit hurts or that bit hurts, or this shoulder's sore, they've been lame here, or they've been having an issue here, and then they wonder why I'm working back here. Well, the reason for that is that's the natural compensation area for a dog is asymmetrical. It doesn't apply to every dog, but as a rule, that's the compensation area. So this area is going to be tight because they're coming off and putting more pressure back here when they should be more evenly distributed. So what we do is make sure that we loosen up the area that is sore or having an issue with, and then we loosen up the surrounding areas and the opposite corners, as it were, just to make sure that all the muscles are being addressed and the dog's body will function properly. And then they're not going to be uncomfortable. So massage for dogs is quite unusual to a lot of people. It's something that a lot of people would never think of, but it's actually very important. Especially for working dogs. I work with a lot of agility dogs and performance dogs, but for working dogs, so your service dogs, it's extremely important. If your muscles are sore and tired, then you can't perform your job as well. But even our everyday pets, dogs that don't necessarily work, they're still running around and having possibly slipping and sliding on floors at home, and number one cause of injury in dogs is slippery surfaces. So just having your own pet dog worked on occasionally, just to make sure there's no underlying issues, or maybe they've slipped on the floor and that back is now a little bit tight. It's more prone to injury and to strain if the muscles are tight. So we want to make sure that all dogs are able to have this sort of therapy and make it more widely known that it's out there, but especially important for these working dogs because they still do the daily activities that your average pet dog does, but then they've got the added responsibility of looking after their veterans. So looking after them is very important, and massage is a must to help keep them in top shape to look after these guys.
Mary and Braylee, thank you so much for sharing about the training program itself and the importance of massage therapy for our service dogs in training. Moving on to our next section. Obviously, we can't do our training if it wasn't for the dogs that we have. So as many of you all know, we do not breed any of the dogs that are in our program. A good majority of the dogs actually come from other rescues, shelters, and adoption agencies. So we're giving two a second chance at life, a veteran and a rescue dog. But as you can assume, there's a lot that goes into the canine acquisition and ensuring that we have just the right dogs that are suitable for our program. So today we have Jeannie White and Stephanie Doctor, who are certified canine trainers, and they're here to talk about the canine acquisition process. Hello Canine family, my name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots. I'm here with our canine acquisition team, Stephanie Doctor and Jeannie White. Thanks so much for joining me today. Stephanie has over 12 years of veterinarian tech experience and came to Canine Partners for Patriots in 2016. Jeannie has been with Canine Partners for Patriots since the founding of the organization in 2014 and was actually with our founder, Mary Peters, since 2006. Thanks so much for joining us. Jeannie, where do our dogs come from if the veteran does not have a dog of their own for the program?
We network with all the local county organizations, animal shelters, rescues, private owners a lot of times will bring us or want to rehome a dog, and breeders.
So what type of breeds do we accept into our program? Are there any restrictions that we have?
The only restrictions that we have is we are not allowed to accept bully breeds into our program due to insurance issues. But there's a caveat to that. If a veteran comes to us with their own dog and it is a bully breed, we will temperament test the dog, and if that dog passes the temperament testing and is working for their veteran, we will accept them and their dog into the program.
So what if a veteran already has a dog in the home? Does that pose for any sort of difficulties?
No. A lot of our veterans have other dogs in the home that may not be suitable for service work. So what we do is we'll find them a dog, and then we will temperament test the dog. If the dog goes through the temperament testing, we will do a meet and greet with the veteran and his dog at home, whether it's one dog or multiple. And if they all work well together, are friendly and are dog friendly, then we make the match and that veteran goes home with a potential service.
Stephanie, are we able to accommodate veterans who may have a family member in the house that has allergies?
We are. We do find hyperallergenic dogs They are difficult because they're very popular. The poodle mixes, Schnauzer, the Maltese. But Jeannie and I do our very best to locate a hyperallergenic dog from any of our veterans that have issues in the home with that.
Stephanie, how do we temperament test dogs, and what kind of behavior traits do we look for?
Well, first we're looking for a stable, confident, friendly dog that's good with people, other dogs, and children. And once we have that, then the temperament testing is sort of like a canine good citizen test, meaning that we expose them to different sights and sounds to see how they will react with those behaviors, which are things that the veteran may encounter out in public with the dog. We also test our dogs to see if they will alert to rising in adrenaline levels. And we want to make sure that that's a positive experience for them, that they're okay with that.
Wow, sounds like a lot goes into the canines that we bring into the program. So that being said, Jeannie, if someone has a dog that they would like to donate to the program, what's the process for going about that? And are there any requirements that are necessary?
Yes, there are. We have a link on the website that allows them to go in for rehoming a dog. They fill out that whole questionnaire. It comes directly to Stephanie and I. We then review it and we communicate to that individual. If that dog looks like a good candidate based on the application they fill out, we will have them come in and we will do a temperament testing with that dog.
That's awesome. Well, Jeannie, Stephanie, thank you for what you guys do. Canine acquisition is a huge part of what we do here, and without you guys, we wouldn't be able to continue on serving the mission and helping those in need. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Jeannie and Stephanie, for sharing about the canine acquisition process and how we find the dogs that are just perfect for the program. We appreciate all that you guys do. Moving into our next section, ADA laws is a crucial part of what we do when it comes to educating the community. One of our main values here at Canine Partners for Patriots is education, and this falls directly into that. So today I have Ron Flaville, who is our Chief Executive Officer here, and he's going to share a little bit more about ADA laws and then also the comparison between service dogs, emotional support dogs, and therapy dogs as well, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So, Ron, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, of course, and thank you for everybody that's currently viewing that actually will view later on.
Absolutely. So we're going to start out. What is ADA?
So ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay. And is there any certain individuals that refers to directly, or is it just a group?
It refers to people who have disabilities, and it protects their individual rights and their civil rights.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So how does ADA then define a service animal?
Okay, so a service animal, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, is a dog, or in some cases a miniature horse, that is individually task trained to mitigate its handler's disability or disabilities.
Okay. Very cool. And I know in there the dog has to work. So what is defined as work when it comes to a service dog?
Well, work or tasks can be defined in a number of different ways depending on the individual's disability. For instance, a guide dog that is guiding somebody that is blind or visually impaired, alerting someone who's deaf to things around them. For instance, somebody with PTSD, the dog calming them down before they have, that PTSD attack.
Service animals cover a lot of different areas as far as tasks, that is for sure. And I know the really big thing also is service animals are working animals and not pets. And I know that's something we reiterate constantly here at Canine Partners for Patriots. I know if anyone's ever heard me speak before, one of the things I always say is the hardest part about my job is all the amazing dogs that come in the door that I have to completely ignore. But it's true, if a dog has their vest on, they are working, they are to be completely ignored, correct?
Yes, you want to talk to the handler, not to the dog, for the simple fact that you don't know the individual's disability, and taking the focus of the dog off of the individual could be life or death in some cases.
So it really does reiterate the importance of ignoring service dogs while they are working. So regarding the law, I know a person with a disability cannot be asked to remove his service dog from the premises, but there are a couple exceptions to that. What are those exceptions?
So the two biggest exceptions are if the dog is out of control and the handler doesn't take effective action to control the dog, and then if the dog's not housebroken.
Okay. And I know another big thing that I've heard Mary mention all the time. Service dogs must remain on the floor. Dogs are never permitted at chair tops or tabletops either. So I know the other big area with service dogs that there's a lot of misconceptions on is the questions that members of the community, whether it's staff, whether it's a business owner, whether it's just another member of the community, there's actually only two questions that they can ask, correct?
Yes.
What are those questions?
Yes, legally a business can ask, is that a service animal required due to a disability, and what work or tasks has it been trained to perform? The individual with a disability that utilizes a service animal is not required to demonstrate those tasks, and I know that's a common misconception as well.
Yeah, I know. So they're not essentially they cannot ask about the person's disability specifically. They can't require medical documentation. There is not a specific ID card or training document, and they can't ask that the dog demonstrate its tasks as well. Correct?
Yes.
All right. These are all very important things that us as members of the community, whether business owners, staff, just community members, it's always very important to keep this in mind. I know another big thing that we face and that our veterans face and other individuals with disabilities that have service dogs is the fake service dogs. You went over the other two questions that essentially the only two questions that are allowed to be asked, but are we doing anything specifically to combat the fake service dogs? Because I know they make it harder for those who actually need a service dog.
Right. Well, the biggest thing is education. There's a ton of laws currently on the books between the Americans with Disability Act, which is federal law, and then state statutes, depending on what state you actively reside in. Florida is really good for service animal laws with their actual specific state statutes, which does help.
Gotcha. And if I remember correctly, there's actually a state statute that is in place that if someone has a fake service dog and they're caught, that's punishable up to jail time and a fine, correct?
Yes. I don't remember the exact fine or the amount of jail time, but yes.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So moving on to the second part of this section, I know one of the big things is there's a lot of confusion between service dogs, emotional support dogs, and therapy dogs. So we actually have this great educational tool that really specifies the difference in different circumstances depending on each of the three types of dogs. So a service dog is any dog trained to perform tasks for an individual with a disability. An emotional support dog is a medically prescribed animal providing therapeutic benefit through dedicated companionship. And therapy dogs are animals-assisted therapies involving animals as a form of treatment. So, moving forward, is an assistance animal legitimate, and can you ask and pertinent to each of the three types of dogs?
Say that again. I didn't quite understand the question.
Is an assistance animal legitimate, and can the public ask when it comes to service dogs, emotional support dogs, and therapy dogs?
So that kind of goes back with regards to service animals. There's still only two questions that can legally be asked. Now, as far as emotional support animals, really those animals are not provided the same amount of, I don't want to say rights, because as an animal they don't really have rights. It's actually the ADA protects the handler's rights to utilize the service animal. So people taking emotional support animals out to, let's say, Walmart or the grocery store are really doing a disservice to the people that do have a disability that utilize a service animal for those disabilities. As far as therapy dogs, those are most of the time those are dogs that are trained to go out into things like hospice, children's hospitals, to provide that companionship to the young, the old, the sick, whatever the case is.
Okay. So I know we touched on where service dogs are allowed legally. They're allowed any place that the public is allowed per ADA law. What about emotional support dogs and therapy dogs? Are they allowed anywhere, or are there certain restrictions when it comes to them?
There's technically restrictions with regards to emotional support animals and therapy dogs. Like I said, going back to the therapy dogs, that's where you normally see them in hospitals and things like that to comfort people that are currently there. They even bring them to veterans homes, veteran hospitals as well. Emotional support animals, really, since they have no official training, they really shouldn't be out in the public environment, say the grocery store, for instance.
Very interesting. So when it comes to the different breeds of dogs, is there a restriction regarding service dogs, emotional support dogs, therapy dogs, or can it be any breed of dogs?
It can be any breed, male, female, it does not matter.
I know that's often a common misconception
Yes.
that it has to be a shepherd or a lab or
Right.
something of that sort. One of the unique parts about our program, like we mentioned before, is that we rescue dogs. So the dogs coming from shelters, it might be part shepherd, it may not. It's, we are indeed rescuing. So certification or identification required for any of the above?
Legally, no. Now, there are some individuals that do have an ID. For instance, for our organization, we do provide our veterans an ID, showing that they are trained. They are trained through our program. Now, that being said, legally, there is no national registry, no official certification process, or anything like that. The service animals actually, technically, don't even have to be identified as service animals, say with a vest or a collar.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So when it comes to training, obviously service dogs go through crucial amounts of training, often months and months. But do emotional support dogs and therapy dogs as well?
Therapy dogs do go through some sort of training. I'm not very familiar with it because they are going into things like hospitals. Emotional support animals are not required to have any training because their only function is to provide companionship for that individual.
Very, very interesting. So switching gears a little bit more so to the animal health side of things, do service dogs, emotional support dogs, and therapy dogs, are they subject to normal licensing and vaccination rules
Yes.
when it comes to their health? All
Yes.
the above? Wow, that's very interesting. Kind of going back a little bit to the ADA side of things. So some people lie about their assistant animal statute, and this is something we know. I know with service animals, misrepresentation can be punished by law. Is that the same for emotional support dogs and therapy dogs as well?
I believe so, because some people who may claim that an emotional support animal is a service dog is effectively breaking the law.
I know that with the different types of dogs, there's often a lot of confusion. So we really hope today, especially this segment, was very educational to everyone and really just helped to be able to share the difference between all the different types of dogs that there are out there. Ron, thank you for sharing. I know this is an area that you are you're an expert in, and we really do appreciate that.
I wouldn't say an expert, but I know enough.
He knows the laws pretty well and definitely is great about teaching that. So moving forward, we're going to go a little bit more into events and outreach. So if you're watching this, obviously with COVID-19, it's taken an interesting turn on our events and outreach approach. So we had decided to do a virtual capacity so that we can still engage with our supporters, whether it be donor-based, whether it be collaborative partners, whatever it might be. But we actually have a few folks here that are going to share about the collaboration projects that we have going on. So our first one is Tim Roca. He is actually with AmerisourceBergen, Chair of Veterans in Actions Group. And he's going to speak a little bit about our collaborative relationship that we have with them today.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots. Today I have the honor of being here with one of our collaborative partners. This is Tim Roca. He's with the AmerisourceBergen's Veterans in Actions. He's actually the chair of that group. And the mission of Veterans in Action is to foster empowerment and support for our veterans, their families, and all members of the AmerisourceBergen military community. This is translated into the focus areas of talent and development, organizational alignment and culture, along with community. Tim, thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to hand it over to you so you can share a little bit more about the collaboration that AmerisourceBergen has with K9.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so delighted to partner with Partners for Patriots, such a magnificent organization. And we're so delighted to have this partnership with them. Really, what it allows us to do is activate our veteran network to really support this great organization. And so, in our current COVID situation, what we're able to do is attend virtual open houses, and we're in talks with some other exciting events here in the near future, potentially doing a 5K and some other things. And so it allows us to engage our associates who have been kind of forced to work from home during these unprecedented times. And so we're just very happy and delighted to be a part of this great event. Our mission of helping veterans, preventing suicide, doing it with animals. It's such a wonderful opportunity for us, and we're just delighted to be a part of it. So thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. And like I said, we are so thankful here at K9 for our partnership and our collaboration with AmerisourceBergen. And honestly, we would not be able to do nearly what we do. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you as well.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you for the work that you do for our veterans as well. So our next collaborative partner that I'm actually going to have speak a little bit is our Executive Director of the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans. It is a national association that is comprised of members all across the United States with like minds as us as far as providing service dogs for veterans. So today I have Jeremiah Blocker, who's going to share a little bit more about the association.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at K9 Partners for Patriots. I'm here today with Jeremiah Blocker. He is actually the Executive Director of the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans. It is a national association that K9 Partners for Patriots is a part of. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, Jen. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited what you guys are doing with your organization. We're so appreciative of y'all being a founding member of the Association of Service Dog Providers and all the great work that y'all do in helping veterans.
Absolutely.
So one of the amazing things about the association is having so many different members from California to Florida to Virginia to Montana. We have members in Montana, all over the place, and really the focus is helping veterans. Right now we have so many that are hurting from post-traumatic stress disorder, from military sexual trauma, and we want to identify ways of helping them, because as a society we've sent so many soldiers and service members overseas to fight our wars, and service dogs are something that works. There's empirical data to show that if a veteran who's struggling with suicide or trauma, having a service dog absolutely makes a difference in their life. There's data to support that. And we're excited about just the association's efforts to work on that. All our members are involved in that as well. I'm very excited about y'all's open house. Wish that we could all be there in person to celebrate with you guys. But I think the importance is to really emphasize the mission that y'all have, which, you know, right now as we're talking here and watching the video, for those that are watching, you know, there's a serviceman out there or a woman out there that's been through either military sexual trauma or struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that service member is trying to make a decision about what they're going to do next. If the trauma is too much for them to handle and they can't bear to go through that pain anymore, what the next step is. And right now, thank goodness that there are organizations out there like K9 Partners for Patriots that have great staff and great trainers and are able to match service members. That service member, that man or woman that's struggling right now, there's an opportunity for them to get matched with a service dog that can help them overcome the trauma they're going through right now. And really, that's what it's about. There's so many different organizations and efforts to help veterans, but this is really where the rubber meets the road. So that man or woman right now that doesn't want to face tomorrow, that doesn't want to go through another 4th of July with all the fireworks and all the trauma that comes with that, they have an opportunity to be matched with a service dog that re-energizes them with life. And that's, I can't think of a better way to put that, is you have people that literally the life has been sucked out of them. And this is an opportunity to be re-energized with life. And we have so many testimonies, and I know y'all will hear that from talking to Jen and other great members of partners. I think what you'll see is that there's so many people that had given up on hope, but once they had the opportunity to join with this organization, and so many others out there that are working hard, it brought them to a different point in their life. There's so many success stories out there about that. So we don't have to go through statistics, but I'll give you this statistic. Every day there's 22 veterans that take their life. So by the time that most of you go to bed tonight and tuck your kids in bed and have dinner and turn the TV off, 22 men and women who are service members would have killed themselves. That's awful. We've lost more service members to veteran suicide than we have in our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as a veteran of those wars, I can't tell you how difficult this is. I recently just went to a funeral for one of the soldiers that I led in combat in Iraq about 12 years ago, actually. And he reached a point in his life where he gave up, and he left 3 beautiful children behind and a wonderful wife. And the circumstances are traumatic. And I wish desperately that we had been able to link him up with, incredible organization like K9 Partners for Patriots, and that could have made a difference in his life. But unfortunately, we weren't able to help him. But there's so many others out there that we can help. And K9 Partners for Patriots does an incredible job just finding ways of helping through service dogs. And, this is not, just a situation where someone has a cute pet and, as cuddly as that is, this is a life-altering, changing, renewing the energy and life into that veteran. So I'd encourage y'all to take as much time as you can to get to understand this organization that's right there in your community. And they're doing incredible work and changing lives. And very few people have the opportunity to do that. So few of us have the opportunity in our life to make a difference. But this is truly an opportunity to make a difference and to impact someone. And having been through that and having spent time in these far off wars and places, I've seen the impact, the devastating impact that can have on our service members. And I'm so excited to be a part of the Association of Service Dog Providers, and K9 Partners for Patriots is one of our founding organizations. And we're so proud of the work that they're doing in Florida and the difference they're making every day in people's lives. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk here, Jen. Is there anything in particular that we should highlight or talk about?
Absolutely. I think it is so awesome that we are part of the association. So it's not, if someone we can't necessarily help directly due to geographical limitations, we have a network of other like-minded service dog providers who hold the same values that we do, that we can refer them to if there's someone that might be closer. So I think that resource in itself is just invaluable. We're all working so hard to be able to continue to help these veterans who are struggling with PTSD and TBI and MST and everything. And I think June being PTSD Awareness Day, just continuing to bring light to a situation that a lot of folks are nervous to talk about, but letting folks know that there is hope, there are alternative therapies out there, and there are people that are willing to help, all at absolutely no cost. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for your work with the association. We appreciate all that you guys do.
Well, Jen, thank you so much, and thank you for y'all's great work, and I'm excited about y'all's open house. I hope y'all have a great one.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Jeremiah. We really appreciate all the work that you do with the association. Now, for the last segment under outreach, we could not have done this, like I mentioned before, if it wasn't for Chambers Law. We are so thankful for their generosity, and we do have a quick video from them as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Licata. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager here at K9 Partners for Patriots. So excited to have you guys here. We have a really exciting event that is coming up here very shortly on June 27th. It is our first ever virtual open house. So that is going to be on PTSD Awareness Day. And we are extremely excited also to announce that Chambers Law Firm is going to be our main sponsor for the event. So of course I wanted to introduce them to you all and let them share a little bit about what they do for our veterans. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Chris Chambers, Chambers Law Firm. We help veterans get the benefits that they deserve for their service to our country. That's our goal. That's our aim. And we love what we do. Primarily, it's VA disability compensation benefits is what we're trying to assist them in getting. I'd say a large portion of our veterans certainly do suffer from some mental health conditions as a result of their service. And so helping them to not only get that service connected, but also helping them to get those ratings increased. Those are some of the main things that we do to try to help our veterans. And we love what K9 Partners for Patriots does in helping our veterans. Certainly, we do have several clients that do have benefited from K9 Partners for Patriots. So we certainly appreciate them and their partnership for our veterans for sure.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys. You guys help our veterans, like you said, be able to get the benefits that a lot of them have not been able to get over the years. We will be linking Chamber Law Firm in the top, so if you need more information about them, feel free to follow their Facebook and reach out to them. We are extremely excited to see everyone for our first ever virtual open house. If you would like to register, the link is on our Facebook. It is also on our website as well. Free registration, of course, and we hope to see everyone there. Thanks again. Once again, thank you so much to Chambers Law Firm. We really, really, really do appreciate you guys and your generosity. So the next segment of our program is going to be talking about another very important part of our program, and that's volunteering in our foster care. Obviously, without volunteers, we would not be able to do nearly what we are capable of doing. They help out here at the facility in the day-to-day operations. They help out with events, but they also help out as far as our foster care homes as well. So I have a couple of our volunteers who are here to specifically talk on that. So I have Betty, who is our volunteer coordinator, Kelly, our office manager, and then Bonnie, who is our foster care manager. And they're going to share a little bit more in depth about what volunteering at K9 Partners for Patriots looks like.
Hi, my name is Kelly Flaville. I'm the office manager here at K9 Partners for Patriots, and I'm here today with Betty Melton, who is our volunteer coordinator. Thank you so much for joining me today. My joy. So we're going to talk a little bit about our volunteer opportunities here at K9. What are the requirements to become a volunteer?
Number one, you need a passion to support our veterans. You need to be at least 18 years old and be available one or more days each week.
Awesome. What are the different areas that they could volunteer in?
Okay. Working in our front office, answering the phones, interacting with veterans and our staff. We also have special events at which we need volunteers. A good example would be this fall. We have our annual 5K walk run, which this year is November 14. When you volunteer for that event, you don't have to be 18 years old. And this is a great opportunity if you're working on your Bright Futures Scholarship.
Yes, and we can sign off on those hours so that you can provide them to your guidance counselor and make sure they count for those Bright Futures scholarships. So if someone is interested in becoming a volunteer with us here at K9, how would they go about doing that?
There will be a link provided to the volunteer page, as well as going to our website in the upper right-hand corner. It says Get Involved. Go to our volunteer page where there's an application, complete it, and submit it. If you have special skills that we haven't mentioned, please include those in the application. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Betty. A recent study showed that Florida ranks 50th in volunteerism. We're better than that. Florida is full of kind and compassionate people, and we want to show that to the rest of the country. There's no better place to start than K9 Partners for Patriots. If you have a heart for our nation's veterans and homeless dogs, visit our website and submit an application today. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hi, I'm Kelly Flaville. I'm the office manager here at Canine Partners for Patriots, and I'm here with Miss Bonnie Kaufman, who is our foster care program manager. And we're going to have a conversation about what that means and how people can help. So, is there a current need for foster homes in our program?
There's always a need for in our program. The problem is that life interferes with everybody, and we'll have enough foster people, and then somebody will get sick or they'll go on vacation. So we never have too many fosters.
Awesome. Why are foster families such an important part of our Canine Partners for Patriots family?
Well, they're important in that we don't want a veteran to have to wait for a dog when he's ready to start the program. But they're also important because we get most of our dogs from shelters, and we try to get them from kill shelters if possible, so we're saving a dog's life. And only 1 in 3 dogs passes our requirement test. So when we get a dog that does, we don't want to have it go back to the shelter because we don't have a foster home for it. It's so important to get a good dog, and there are so many good dogs we get. But if we don't have a foster home, they go back to the shelter, and prayerfully they will get adopted. But if not, you don't want to think about what might happen. So the more foster families we have, it does 2 things. A, it gives our veterans a foster as soon as they need it. And B, it opens a spot in the shelter for another dog that needs saving.
So I know we do a home visit when we're looking into a potential foster. What are we looking for in that home visit?
The main thing we're looking for is a safe place for our dogs. Our foster homes don't have to be anything in particular other than reasonably clean and safe for the dog. If a potential foster has animals of their own, we do a meet and greet with them before we give them the dog. When you become a foster, we give you food, we pay all the medical bills, we give you anything you need, the crates, the toys, whatever. We ask that you come to 1 class a week so that we can get the dog acclimated to our facility and to what goes on here. And usually you don't keep the dog for more than 2 weeks. It's very rare if it goes on before that because we always have veterans that need dogs.
Absolutely. If someone was interested in becoming a foster for our program, how would they go about doing that?
Well, the best way for them is to go to our website, K9partnersforpatriots.com, and click on the Get Involved tab and fill out the application. They are then contacted. They're invited to come in and see a class so that they know what's going on, and we have a chance to talk to them and explain our expectations. And if they like that, then we do the home visit, and if they're accepted, we give them a manual that explains the entire program to them, and they have 24-hour contact with our dog acquisition people if there's any questions.
If you would like to become a foster caregiver for Canine Partners for Patriots, there's a link in our description below. Please submit an application today. Thank you, Bonnie, for coming in and meeting with me today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
And thank you, Canine Partners for Patriots, for allowing me to be a volunteer.
Once again, our volunteers are so crucial to what we do here at Canine Partners for Patriots. Like I said before, we would not be able to do nearly what we did and are capable of doing if it wasn't for them. Just a friendly recap, if you are interested in volunteering, we do have a volunteer application on our website, so make sure to fill it out and to know what areas of volunteering you might be interested in. So moving on to kind of the lives impacted through K9. So to date, we have over 240 veterans who have successfully completed our program. Some of you may or may not know, but one of those first veterans was actually our current CEO, Ron Flaville. So I have him here today just to share a little bit about his story through Canine over the years. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, I wouldn't miss it. Once again, thank you for everybody who's viewing now and who will view later. For those of you who don't know, yes, I am the CEO of Canine Partners for Patriots, and I am also technically the first veteran to come through the program before it was even officially a program. So I've been here since day one, training in the dirt, and have progressed quite nicely, I would like to think. For those who don't know, so I was medically retired in January of 2013 from the Army. Between the Marine Corps and the Army, I served almost 17 years. When we were trying to figure out where we should go, my wife and my children, my wife's actually from here in Florida, and she wanted to come home. And I figured she didn't follow me around for so long, the least I could do is reciprocate, and so we moved to Florida. But after I got out of service, I don't want to say I lost my mind, but I definitely lost my way. For the first year we lived here, I only left the house approximately 3 times, and that was only when absolutely necessary. The third time, we were just lucky enough to find a car in a Walmart parking lot that said Stillwater dog training on the back. My wife had seen what service animals could do for PTSD, and she came up with the idea of maybe getting our dog trained for something along those lines. So my wife Kelly called the number as soon as we got out of our vehicle, and by the time we got up to the front door, Mary was calling her back. So on a Tuesday night, I believe it was the first time we went there, training out at the Humane Society. I had never been around that many dogs or people in one time, and I don't know how long, and I couldn't bring myself to get out of our vehicle. So Kelly actually got out, went and talked to Mary for a little while, and the kicker that Mary said is, I can help him, but he's got to get out of the car. So my wife came back with her very nice way of saying, you better get out of this car or there are going to be some issues. I don't want to say we were on the verge of divorce, but it probably wasn't out of the realm of possibilities. And most of our struggles were really due to me. My isolation, my anger and rage, flashbacks, nightmares, the whole gambit of symptoms and things that come along with PTSD. So I made that first step, and I haven't turned back. Throughout that process, I did all the training with our dog Sophia. Great all-black German Shepherd, love her to death. She is now semi-retired, living the life of luxury at home with the other dogs and our last child who's still in the house. I became a trainer and the veteran liaison for Canine Partners for Patriots, doing the interviews with Mary, reviewing veterans' paperwork and documentation to get them into our program. Then I went on to become the COO, and that lasted, I believe, just over 2 years. And then September of last year, I was actually promoted to CEO. So now it's full steam ahead.
And honestly, I could not think of a better leader to really just continue to be able to help bring more veterans into the program, to be able to continue to give veterans that second chance at life, to rescue dogs in the process. So thank you for leading the mission. Thank you for what you've done for this organization. I know I speak on behalf of everyone. We really appreciate your leadership for the organization.
Thank you, but it made such a difference in my life, in my marriage, my relationship with my children. They actually like to be around me now, which is a little interesting, but I've come to enjoy it. Hi, Jazz.
And this is actually one of our program ambassadors. This is Jazz. If you're ever around K9, you'll see her on a regular basis. She actually belongs to our marketing coordinator, who, without everything, she is behind the scenes today, and she's the one that's making this all work. So this is actually a really great time to give her a shout out. Thank you, Crystal, for what you do for the organization. She's another one who has been here since the beginning, but your talents really do go appreciated. So thank you for that. Future plans. Obviously, the mission of K9 is to be able to continue to help veterans. And I know Mary touched a little bit on this, one day having our own facility. Do you care to elaborate maybe a little bit more about that?
Well, we're currently looking to expand our operations a little bit, and of course in a manageable way, in order to help veterans across the state, if at all possible. We're looking for land, and in order to build our own facility, approximately twice the size of what we have now, but of course that can change depending on land and funding and things of that nature. But we're definitely looking to expand, be able to help as many veterans as we can.
Well, it sounds like K9 definitely has a vision for the future, you know, and I know I've said throughout this whole COVID-19, the mission still continues. We still have a mission to serve. We still have veterans that need our help. So we will continue moving forward with that every single day with that mission in mind. So we are on to the last segment. As I invite my other visitors up to our set, Mary and Denny, if you have any questions, now is the time to go ahead and type them in the chat. I will actually be reading from the questions. And it would be very helpful if you could direct who you'd like me to ask your question to. If not, I will go ahead and make sure they get directed to the right person as well. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to get settled in and go ahead and start asking some questions. She's fine.
I need her. This is my dog. She's quiet.
All right, we'll give about another 20 seconds for some questions to start coming in.
One question, was that already covered?
Oh yes, there was one question, and I believe Mary touched on it. It was about mobility. Could you explain maybe a little bit more about the mobility training that we do? I know you touched on it, but maybe for those who might have missed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Mobility in itself, we wouldn't take a person in, a veteran in, just for a mobility issue. If it is caused by PTSD, TBI, MST, then yes, we would. And that is to use the dog to teach the dog to be a brace or balance to help them prevent from losing their balance, helping them get up from a chair, going up and down stairs. If they fall down, helping them get up and that type of thing. And that's what we would teach during that.
Awesome, very, very interesting. How long is the wait to get into the program?
I would.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Typically, there isn't a wait. The longest time it normally takes is for the veterans to get the documentation that we need to see, verifying their service, their disability, things of that nature. That's normally what takes the longest time. Unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic, that has extended our time frame out a little bit. We have recently opened up to start veteran interviews again, but we got to come, get through that. Thankfully, it's a small backlog, but we're currently working to get through that.
Awesome. And I know we have some veterans probably who are joining us today who maybe had already applied. So if you are one of those veterans, we are working through the list, and we're going to get you in as soon as possible.
And they can understand as well, once they have their interview and we do their background check at that time, once everything goes through, and we usually know within their interview time or within that day, depending, as long as you're not in North Carolina.
Unless they lived in North Carolina.
It takes a little longer to get a background check then, but then they are automatically right then welcomed into the family. So they may not have been matched with a dog yet, but we embrace them right into the program, and to have them come and meet and start with that orientation.
They can start utilizing the services as well. So
Absolutely, yes. That's another big thing
kind
is
of stuff,
as soon as you're accepted into the program, you can start utilizing the services. Denny is our licensed clinical social worker who is here on staff. He's here on site every single day just to ensure the general well-being and the general health of our veterans. And he's here to be a resource as well. So it looks like we have a couple questions. We have a question from Carolina. What's a survivor story you'll never forget? It's an open question to anyone.
What is what story?
What is a survivor story? Has there ever been a story that you've been told that just particularly touched your heart?
I have one with a veteran that went through, I believe it was the 4th of July and the fireworks. As we know, we do bring that up. The fireworks are not friendly for our veterans and active military. They bring back some really bad memories and flashbacks. Our veteran was trying to not listen to these, which sounded like gunfire and that type of thing to him. So he decided to take some extra medication so that he would go to sleep. Unfortunately, the medication made him not pay attention to what he was doing, was not aware of what he was doing, and started to cut his wrist. And his little service dog that we trained stopped him and barked in his face, and he realized what was happening, and he called 911 for help. And that to me is the power of the service dog that can help redirect the flashback and the focus to the present and save the life of that veteran. That's a survivor story.
That is a survivor story. That is for sure.
I think, for me, I see the reconnection with families.
Speak up. Speak up.
Reconnection with families that I see, whether it's long lost sons or daughters that they're reconnecting with. Some of these men and women haven't talked with their, especially older veterans, haven't talked with their children in many years. So the reconnecting with them has been wonderful to see. Families staying together, families reconnecting. So that's been one of the greatest things that I've seen with the program. So
Absolutely. Ron, I have a question for you. What's the biggest misconception the public has about post-traumatic stress disorder?
Oh, wow. Probably the first is that we're all crazy. I mean, I might be a little crazy, who knows? I'm pretty sure I've been tested here or there. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that veterans with PTSD are broken, okay? Living through a traumatic experience can run a gambit of emotions on a person. Some people deal with it better than others, So I think the biggest misconception is because of PTSD, veterans are crazy or they're going to go off at the wrong time, which don't get me wrong, it can happen, but with PTSD, you have to learn coping mechanisms. I fully believe there's not a cure for PTSD. For instance, I will remember all my days, traumatic experiences that I've been through in my 2 tours to Iraq. I will never forget that. You just have to figure out ways to cope and deal with those issues. For instance, 4th of July is coming up. I'm not a big fan of fireworks, but I have since in the past, 2 or 3 years, I will go out and buy my own, like $300 worth of fireworks, and I'll set them off myself. If I know I'm the one setting them off, I know what to expect. And if I can see the person setting them off, I know what to expect.
taking that control back.
Yeah.
And that's where the dogs are also helpful as far as, when it becomes another way to cope.
Yeah.
Another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
To help get through those moments where,
it can be rough.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can definitely be rough.
Absolutely. I actually have a response back from Carolina. She said, "My goodness, thank you for sharing. That is an incredible survivor story." So thank you so much for sharing. Another question: how soon do you see the progress in the veterans in the K9 P4P program? Denny, I think that's a question directed towards you.
Well, it obviously can vary, but you often see it very, very quickly because they're reconnecting with their fellow veterans, which they've missed quite some time, oftentimes. A lot of our men and women haven't been out of the house in a long time. So just that kind of being in a place that's non-judgmental, around other people who kind of get what they're going through, has been very beneficial. So the change is often, very quickly. I mean, again, it varies from person to person, but they're usually welcomed when they first come in the door with a big hug, and during normal times, that is. But
not here lately.
I can't hug anymore.
But and I think you see the relief on their faces, like, wow, I'm finally accepted again. So.
And they get to start to redevelop that camaraderie that they had while they were in the
with
military.
people who kind of get it.
Yeah.
In other words, because I'm sure as a veteran you can't tell these stories to Joe Schmo down.
I mean, you can, but they won't understand.
Yeah.
Not from a perspective that another veteran.
Absolutely. And how are they going to see me if they hear some of my stories?
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you my stories because you know what, it's there's that moral injury that a lot of men and women are dealing with, and so they tend to shut down because they don't want to share any of it. So here
we don't make them do that.
Absolutely, and here they can kind of be free, and like I said, it's non-judgmental because so many of the people here have gone through the same thing. So,
and I would like to add to that too that one of the biggest changes we see immediately is handing the veteran their dog for the first time. You'll see someone who hasn't talked much, doesn't smile, won't look at you in the face, and you hand them that leash, and that dog is kissing their face and sitting in their lap. You see emotion pour out. They hug the dog, cry, they're smiling. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
It's unconditional because
Absolutely.
the dog, yeah, it's absolutely.
It absolutely is.
Or those veterans that show up and look mean as hell.
Like you, yes.
Absolutely. So let's see. Looks like we have
You didn't know me back then.
some more questions. Mary or Ron, what are the requirements for the veteran to be accepted into the program?
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, thank you. They're really not many. They do have to have a DD 214. We need to see that with an honorable discharge, no felonies. We look for animal abuse, domestic violence, and they must have the diagnosis, a service-related. Doesn't have to be connected, but service-related TBI, MST, or PTSD.
Perfect.
And that's it.
Awesome. Denny, I think this is a question directed towards you. Do you have therapists that are veterans on staff? For veterans with nightmares. Oh, sorry, that's the next question. First question first. I was jumping ahead.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Do you have therapists that are veterans on staff?
We have volunteers. Our nurses are. They have a background in psych nursing, and Karen is in the Army twice, so she went in as enlisted, and then she went as an officer. So we do have volunteers here who are veterans.
Awesome. And it looks like there's a second part to that question. For veterans with nightmares from their PTSD, do the service dogs assist them when they sleep to maybe wake them up before they relieve the trauma?
Yeah. What? I mean, there's a couple different facets to that. I mean, yes, the answer. The dogs will do that oftentimes, and it's often safer for the dogs to wake them up as opposed to their spouses.
Yes.
Because what happens oftentimes, and again, the spouses don't often want to share this with anyone that doesn't kind of outside of the veteran community, because it can be seen as some sort of abuse. Because when the veteran's asleep, he's kind of flaying around and punching things that he's seeing in his sleep, and unfortunately, the spouse often will take the brunt of that. So the dog, it can be it's a lot safer for the dog to wake the veteran up as opposed to the spouse. So that's been a great thing for the dogs to do.
Absolutely. It looks like we have another comment from one of our audience. He says, sadly, after World War I and World War II, soldiers came home suffering from shell shock, which was pre-PTSD. And exactly. And as Ron stated, they carry the stigma of being mentally ill or dangerous. I know that's also a really big part about our program is we don't have restrictions as far as time of service, correct? Ron, do you maybe want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, our program, we accept veterans from every branch of the service, any era. So as far back as, I think our oldest veteran to date is a Korean War veteran.
Yep, that's right.
We don't focus on post 9/11. My biggest thing with that is the fact that, yes, I'm a pre and post 9/11 veteran. I initially enlisted in 1996 until 2017. My dad, he's a retired Marine as well. So I grew up in a military family. He did 1 to 2 tours in Nam, and you can't tell me that my service is more deserving than his. I mean, that's my own personal opinion on it, but I think I have both sides of the coin because I am pre and post.
Absolutely. And I know, and Denny's probably going to elaborate on this, PTSD was not something that was talked about for a very, very, very long time. Do you maybe want to...
Well, the stigma was, I mean, it's bad now, but it was really, really bad, especially the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
And having to look for resources, for veterans, it can be very challenging because I come up to a great resource and it says, post 9/11. So that kind of eliminates, and the Vietnam veterans are, they were treated horribly when they got back. So this is another sort of, I understand it, but I mean, it's also another slap in the face, feeling like I'm being turned down again for something, So that has been a challenge sometimes. So that's one thing great about us is we don't kind of limit it to a certain segment of veterans.
As long as they're physically able to train their dog, we'll take them.
Absolutely. And I know one more question that I know is often a commonly asked question, the cost associated. It is a very well known fact that service dogs can often cost upward of $30,000-$40,000 if I'm correct. Would you care to share a little bit more about what we require of the veterans and what our cost associated is?
I can take it. So our cost per team is around $81,000. Now that said, I'm a big fan of the saying, you handle your gas to get here, we'll cover everything else. There is absolutely no charge for any veteran that comes in this program. The training, the counseling services if they choose to use it, the dog if they need it, all the training equipment, everything is 100% free for the veteran.
Including the counseling as well,
yes.
if they need it as well.
Right.
Awesome.
And when the dog is completed with their training, they're valued somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000, depending on the tasks that were trained.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm just looking through real quick to make sure we did not miss any questions, but I think we're about wrapping it up for the day. I don't see, I'll give it a few more seconds to see if any other questions pop up, but I just wanted to extend just a heartfelt thank you to everyone. Thank you for bearing with us through our first virtual event.
Yes.
Going virtual has its own challenges, that is for sure, but you know, we're making do with best with what we have to be able to still continue to reach out to our community to help our veterans. So we thank the community, thank you for your support. Like I said, COVID has certainly had an interesting turn on events. We had many events that were canceled this year because a lot of times in the spring and in the fall, we do have a lot of events that either we put on or are put on in honor of us. So like any nonprofit, obviously, it does have a tremendous impact on us. Mary, Ron, Denny, do any of you have any closing remarks? Anything else to add to our audience?
I just want to say thank you to everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to see our virtual event here. Maybe next year we'll be able to have it live as well, and people can come into the building. We need your support. These men and women are heroes for our country. They signed their name on that dotted line, including this one, and Colonel Dave, who's standing here as well. Not knowing where that would take them, and I think as citizens of America, of the United States, you know, it's our duty to help make a difference. If they're injured in the line of duty serving our country, then we should step up to the plate and do what it takes to give them the help that they need. So help us do that, please.
Well, thank you again, guys. This recording will be available for those who are not able to watch it live. So even if you're joining us at a later time, thank you for joining us. And we will see you guys hopefully very soon. Take care.
Bye.